Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks with a Z, the podcast all about movies. Each episode is about a specific movie, which we'll get to in a little bit. But first, I need to invite you, the listener, to join in on our fan vote. That's right. Every time it's today's episode, we do a fan vote, and you can actually recommend us movies for that. So if you have a recommendation, just write it in the comments of this YouTube video, or come over to the Ferret Nation Discord and talk in the movie stuff section there. And you can send us an email at ff.filmfreaks with a Z at the end at gmail.com. Or the more common way is get on the podcast and recommend a movie like a certain someone today might do. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I am Yemmy the Ferret, and I'm here with.
Para waffles.
and Yuna Callis.
And of course, we got a special guest here today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, I am P2 the Parasite. What's up?
Hey, welcome.
Player 2 with us
back.
again. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me back once again.
You had to really twist my arm this time, I tell you what. So, P2, the thing that's on everyone's mind is when are we going to see you again?
Oh, well, unfortunately, IRL situations have been getting the better of my time, but within the next couple of weeks, I should be, hopefully, making some kind of comeback on this scene.
Ooh, all right.
Exciting.
Exclusive for Film Freaks with a Z.
Yes, sir.
Well, P2, you got a movie for us. You get to introduce it. Go ahead and take it away, sir.
Excellent. Well, my probably first episode with you guys, I was very nervous. I was wanted to make sure that I brought the authentic self. And my recommendation for this time is Parasite, the classic released in 2019. A little bit of a back kind of information about it before we get started. It's a Korean black comedy thriller directed by Joon-Ho. And similar to my previous recommendation with The Good, the Bad, the Weird, it has a commonality with the main actor of Song Kang-ho featuring in both. Interestingly, before we get to the plot, if you've never seen this or have heard this before, it's won so many awards that it was a recommendation that came quite easily, quite naturally to us. So finding out a little bit about it is that it won 4 awards at the 92nd Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best International Feature Film. Alongside this, it became the first South Korean film to receive any recognition from the Academy Awards, which is massive, which shows the stature of this film. Not only that, it won the Palme d'Or, which is the Cannes Film Festival top prize, which when I did a bit of research on this, other notable winners included Fahrenheit 9/11 and Pulp Fiction, so take from that what you want. It's also been awarded Golden Globes for Best Foreign Film, BAFTAs for the Best Film Not in the English Language, which in my opinion makes it sound like they haven't put enough thought into the title of that category, and also the first non-English language film to win Screen Actors Guild for its outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture. So unsurprisingly, it's been cited as one of the best films of not only the 2010s, the 21st century, but also of all time. So there's quite a lot resting on this. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you all kind of thought of this. So let's get into the plot. First of all, we're introduced to the Kim family. They consist of Kim Ki-taek, he's also known as Mr. Kim. He's the father of the family. We have Kim Chuk-suk, who is the mother, and then they have 2 children, Kim Ki-woo, who is the son, who we start to learn is called Kevin, and then we also have Kim Ji-jung, who is the daughter, who we all come to learn to be known as Jessica. Originally, we find that they live in a really poor district in Seoul, working really low-paying jobs and generally struggle for money. That is until one of Kiwoo's friends, a university student called Min-hyuk, pays them a visit and gifts them something called a scholar's rock. This, in Korean culture, kind of symbolizes wealth and achieving wealth. And this is where our story kind of takes shape. Min Hyuk, who is going to study abroad, and as such, he says to Kiwoo that he should take over tutoring for a rich family because it's easy money. And more selfishly, he thinks that Kiwoo won't be pandering after the daughter, which is going to be a little bit of a love interest. So weirdly, when he uses the phrase "when she enters university, I'll officially ask her out," which makes her sound a little bit seedy, a little bit weird. But anyway, Kiwoo goes to take over this role. Gets doctored university papers and a recommendation from his friend, and this is where we're introduced to the other side of the coin, the mirror to our main protagonists, which are the Park family. We have Park Dong-ik, who's also known as Nathan, the father of the family. We have Choi Yeng-gyo, who is the mother, also known as Madam. And then they have two children, one which I'm assuming is late teenage years of Park De-hye, who is the daughter being tutored. And then they have a younger son called Park De-song, who is the younger boy. We see other characters in terms of that, but eventually both sides of the coin and both sides of their wealth and status in society become parasitically enmeshed. And this is where our story really takes place. So that's my little intro.
Oh, beautiful.
Wow.
intro,
Yeah,
you two.
beautiful. I just
Very
want
well
that.
done.
That was amazing.
So yeah, thoughts so far. What was your first kind of impressions of the opening lineup?
Yeah, I went into this with no knowledge, only knowing that it was a lot of people's favorite movies in 2019 and that it won a lot of awards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oscars.
So obviously there's a lot riding on that, and I didn't want to go in with expectations, which I kind of do just because of the buzz that this movie generated. And it starts off kind of in a weird, I guess not really a weird place, but it starts off and you're like, what is gonna happen here?
Mm-hmm.
It's the feeling of like, what's going on here? Why is she taking off her panties? Why is he doing this? And then once it starts going, it's like, oh, and then you get the oh moment, and that's when I really started to enjoy the movie. It was kind of like, I don't know, when that started going. It's not like I was not enjoying the movie at the beginning, but it was just it was part of like the wonder of like, how is this related to the title of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and how is this all going to like what's going to happen?
Totally. Like, luckily for me, this is the second full time that I've like watched it, and when you first watch it, you go along with the twists and turns. There's so many things you don't see coming. There's so many things that like really take you in that kind of suspenseful moment. So many things that kind of don't make sense. So from my perspective, kind of coming back into this and watching it a second time, it's similar to other films like Fight Club, where you sort of see the hidden messages, the hidden little tokens, the Easter eggs, etc., and you can sort of see it in a completely different light. But just saying, like, I've really loved watching this film again, and I still, even though I knew what was going to come and what was going to happen, it still massively added that tension, that kind of palpitation that you feel with, oh my god, what's going to happen here? Are they going to get out of this situation?
It was also my second time watching this, and yeah, I completely agree. Like watching this for the second time, like just knowing what has happened has allowed me to like see so many different things. Like when you see the girl in the car, like riding back, and like before she took off her panties, you can see her face changing. Like, oh, like that's when she got the idea to maybe implant something, and you could just see so many like little details that I obviously missed the first time around.
Totally.
So it's definitely a great movie for a second watch.
And
Yeah, it
even
was
the
my
first watch.
Yeah, totally.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say it was my first watch, and kind of like starting the movie, I was like, okay, what's going on here? Like I understood right away, they're a little on the poorer end, and the living situation's not that good. I understood that part, but even like looking at the cover, like I looked up like the bio or like a synopsis of it. And like P2, you should just type it out because that should be the synopsis because that's how beautiful it was. But really, like you didn't understand. Like I'm like looking, I was like, okay, what am I getting myself into? But like you guys said, you kind of pick up on it, within like 10, 15 minutes of the movie.
I just love how layered the whole film is. I love the fact that you can look at it from so many different standpoints. Obviously, the main kind of focus of it is the gender divide, it's the class divide, it's the wealth divide. And I was saying that it's so beautifully shot that everything kind of merges well together. And one of the notes I kind of made a big point of was sometimes you get these movies where every single person cast is like the perfect person for the role. They become like so indistinguishable from the character that they're playing that you believe that that's who they are, fully. And even from the very get-go is you notice that they are below street level, which not only signifies their position in class, but also in terms of where they are in terms of their status. And I just like that in every kind of facet that you look at, once you kind of identify those features, you see them scattered throughout the movie. And like you said, if you saw like the cover for this film, it doesn't give you any kind of like clues. And I think that that's kind of like the main kind of focus behind it, is that there seems to always have this notion of something lurking beneath.
That's a great point. And I was just now thinking of that one line where they mentioned how like roaches scatter when the lights turn on, and eventually that's exactly what happens when
Yeah.
they're all in the house, and then they find out that the family's coming back. But I guess I'm getting a little bit way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. But yeah, I to bring it back, I guess I really I love the framing of pretty much all the shots in this movie. Especially right at the beginning, you have that wonderful scene where Kevin is talking to his friend, and there's just like stuff going on in the background. The truck drives by, it's framed really well,
Mm.
and it just seems like the movie just seems so real.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the dialogue and how the characters are interacting with each other, like from the get go, it just feels so real and rooted in reality. It's very wonderfully written.
I completely agree. I think that all of the kind of components, the very subtle music, there's nothing that is like in your face alarming, but there's very much like a consistent approach to it. The dialogue is incredible. The way that
Yeah.
the lines are delivered are just extraordinary. And when I was kind of going through like my notes and things, I know that it's 132 minutes, which for a film is a very long time to try and sit through. But I found myself having like, going through the entire process. It took me about 3 hours because of how much I was stopping the film to make notes on things, direct quotes and stuff like that, because of how hard hitting they are. And I just think that the way that everything is kind of, woven together is so well done. You can see why it's got this kind of, approach and thought about it.
And you could see that with the other movie that we watched by Bong Joon-ho as well. We watched Snowpiercer, which was pretty early on in the Film Freaks repertoire of movies. But I remember that one, like I really really enjoyed that one. I gave that one a 5 out of 5, and I was like, oh, this is probably Bong Joon-ho's best movie. And then Parasite came out, and everyone's like, oh my god, this is it. This is the thing. This
Yeah.
is the new one. And I'm like, oh, okay. I probably should have watched it back then, but you know, I don't know. It just went on my back burner for a while.
I think I kind of stumbled into it the first time that I watched it, because that was obviously during the time of lockdown and when the world was an entirely different place.
Right.
But like you said, I think it has one of those movies where it's timeless in its approach in the modern era, because it fits in any society, in any realm, and it kind of shows how real and situational this is. That depending on circumstances and environmental impacts, anything is possible for this to happen, and I think that's what made it so suspenseful throughout. And kind of as we kind of underline like how many layers this movie has from the title alone, that when you consider how the family attach themselves literally and metaphorically to the Park family, we also see how, similar to a real life parasite, the effects get worse as time goes on. The same situation occurs with how they manage to get their way inside. First of all, it's a recommendation, then it's a thing, then it's the panties, then it's trying to make it look like the housekeeper has TB. Like, we're really stepping it up to like there's no time to waste kind of thing. Like we've got work to do, and we got to get in the door. But one kind of thing that I wanted to get your thoughts on was interesting how it's almost like that, the epitome of the fight for survival, the survival of the fittest. That no matter your standing or whatever you've done, whatever you're guilty of, so to speak, it's weird how they have this mindset of that they're better than others because they don't do certain things. And the one thing that kind of stuck out for me early on is when they tried to get rid of the housekeeper in order to bring in the mother, and they kept highlighting like a real disdain for her, saying things like, "Oh, she's treating this house as if it's her own," which has like a beautiful irony later on.
Yes.
And that, she eats enough for two. And I think at that time that it's delivered, like for me and Callus, looking at it and going, "Oh, that's just like maybe a
Yes.
bit of a backhanded comment." But then when you find out, you go, "Oh my god, of course, that makes so much sense." And I just think, like, as I was going through it, the kind of the English literature student in me was like being dragged out, and I was seeing so many kind of changes and evidences to support certain sides of the story. But it was just I really enjoyed having to watch this again.
Yeah, that's interesting because I didn't really realize that they were saying those things, and I didn't connect the dots until
Sure
you
thing,
just
yeah.
said that. Because it's like, oh yeah, they did say that she was eating for two, and yeah, very interesting. I love that a lot, actually.
Yeah, so there's lots of really like interesting things. Like the first major kind of sign of this for me was when the housekeeper came back to retrieve something from the basement, uh, and it was only that when she's being greeted with quite literally a deeper parasite. And we're seeing that not only is there a parasitic level within the kind of situation anyway, but there is literally within the house, that these parasites, the new ones, are on ground floor. There's a deeper parasite in the sub basement, and
Yeah,
the family who were the host essentially are on the top floor. So can you see how like the layering of status is still ever present throughout the entire film? um, and I think that we've particularly seen this as well when the original housekeeper is pleading with the mother, calling her sister and sis, and that they are fellow members of the needy. And it's very much like a hierarchical situation until she realizes that they're the same. And, they're very quick to think that each other are scum for what they've done.
Right.
yeah,
The shoe
yeah.
quickly falls to the other foot, and
Oh,
then like
most
the other one starts
certainly,
calling her
yeah.
sis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let's rewind a little bit and talk about how the
Yes.
family infects
Sure.
the Park family gets infected by the parasitic other family, because it starts out pretty normal, like a tutor, getting
Hmm.
some money, and you almost feel like, yeah, after the tutor and after the sister gets the job as the art therapist, like you feel like, oh, they gotta be getting enough money to not worry
Sure,
about
yeah.
whatever, but as most parasites do, they take more and more, and
Mm.
eventually they take too much and they get found out or discovered or whatever. And that's kind of how it
Mm.
goes in this movie, where the sister gets the job with the art therapist as an art therapist, and she's able to fib her way through that. And then the dad comes in as the driver, because the other
Yeah.
driver gets fired, let go, and because of the panties in the back seat. And he kind of starts a repertoire with Mr. Park. And
Yep.
then finally, they were able to force the original house lady out, which I honestly, that scene where he pours the hot sauce on the napkin or
Yeah.
whatever, like
Yeah.
that's like one of the best sequences in cinema history, in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
that's such a well done sequence of events. And finally the mother gets in and is now the housekeeper. And you think, like, at that point, like, okay, what's gonna go wrong?
And it's so interesting too how like in a previous scene they did show like him pouring the hot sauce packet on like a pizza or
Hmm.
whatever,
Yeah.
and it's like you think nothing of it, but like it just comes back in such a significant way.
Yeah, like you said, something seems innocuous, and it actually proves to be the crashing domino.
So, did everyone else like how they got the family intertwined into the Park family?
I think what was like a really interesting component is part of my brain. Like I'm one of those people that, like, as I've gotten older, I enjoy the um almost like the drama of a film and a TV show. If I believe it's too good to be true. Do you know what I mean? Like realistically, come on, man. What are the chances of this, actually kind of, happening realistically? And then you tend to realize that the phrase for Parasite, you can see how the family are starting to become, part of this new setup. But then you kind of realize that the Park family, the rich family themselves, are also parasitic because they're using these people to quite literally do every component of their lives.
Yes, and that's kind of like brought to the top at the end of the movie when Kim realizes that, like, oh yeah, he doesn't care about us. He doesn't care about anything that's happening here. He's just caring about his own family, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, like, Mr. Park doesn't realize that, that's his family, who are bloodied and beaten,
Of course.
right? But I still believe, like, and also like the building, like, oh, Kim is stinky, he smells of old radishes or whatever. Like, there's a building of that too, and just how he's being forced to do, like, the Indian thing with his son, like, there's that boiling point, and that's like, we talk about rising action and like a good conclusion a lot on this podcast, especially with Jackie Chan movies, because a lot of times they have that rising action and then nothing happens after that. So this movie actually is a perfect example of like a rising action to that like the main action, and then
climax.
Yeah, the climax, and then it has like that resting phase where it's like, and here's the outro of the movie, and it rolls so smoothly. It really does.
Yeah, we'll talk about that the ending later. But like the thing I wanted to mention, which P2 mentioned like super quick, but like the music just fits so well with like everything that's happening. There's like times where like the violin would come in with like just like a single long extended note, and it's like sounds very ominous. And in like the beginning of the movie, there's like this a certain song that I think it plays a couple times through the movie, but it reminds me of like a Zelda dungeon song. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like kind of very gloomy and ominous, I guess. But it's like, yeah, like we can tell something is going on. Like it's considered a dark comedy, and it does have like certain funny elements. Like, oh yeah, this is like very entertaining to watch, to see them like infiltrate this family in this way, and the situation is like kind of funny, but it's also kind of dark, and this music is like making things very tense, but you still don't know why it's like so tense.
I like how it accompanies the scene as opposed to like overpowering it and like taking control of it. But like you said, it's that dark humor that, even in like these really testing, difficult, intense moments in their lives, there's still like the way that it was delivered as well, just like maybe like a slight comment or a certain action or something like that. And one of the moments that I found myself outwardly laughing and maybe expose myself as a little psychotic here is the scene where I don't want to give too much because obviously we'll go into it a little bit. The scene where a certain someone gets hit in the head with a particular rock, and then we see the rock being thrown again,
Dwayne.
and expecting to like almost a cutaway scene or a change of angle or something like that, but we see it fully fledged, and all we see is then the twitch of the hand. And I just thought that like that is so well done. It's not like outwardly like in your face, it's very subtle, and I just think that the way that everything was done was, you have to look for it. And I think that's the point of a Parasite, isn't it? Is even on these kind of aspects, you still need to look. You need to look deeply what's going on there. But I just thought that scene in particular, made me laugh out loud.
Wow, yeah, I definitely did not laugh in that scene. I felt like it's very a visceral scene.
Yeah, I didn't find myself laughing, but that's not the like. I didn't even know it was labeled as a dark comedy. Like I can see where like the humor would kind of sink in. Like when the lady's like trying to push the bookcase and she's has her feet against the wall and her hands against the bookcase, and
Yeah.
she's just trying to push it. Like I can see where maybe it could be a little funny here or there, but I didn't find myself laughing throughout the movie. But I did find myself with a lot of unease, throughout the movie, a feeling of
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of tension, anxiety, I guess you would say, as the
Mhm.
movie went along.
Yeah, I didn't, since you said comedy, I was like, really? Because like at the end, what's comedic about that? Like the
Oh,
ending
yeah,
is
this-
very
He got
serious.
he got
I'm like, what's
skewered
comedic
by the
about that?
barbecue stick.
Oh
That-
yeah.
Yeah, and
Hilarious.
the flying kick to the other
Shook
housekeeper.
kebabs, anyone?
Yeah, the like the backwards
but
kick.
yeah,
so
I
she
thought-
goes flying.
I thought
Yeah.
the movie it was definitely dark, but I thought it was
Mm.
dark and intense and like Yummy said it, anxiety almost kind of thing because you're
Mm.
like, how's his family gonna do this? But I thought it was very dark and intense movie throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, especially the part where they're hiding underneath the table and
Oh,
the
my
husband and
days.
wife are like right there.
Yeah.
And like, of course, that's the moment when like my other half comes into the room and starts watching the movie with me.
Oh,
And I'm
of
like,
course.
hold on, this it's just hold
It's
on.
not that kind of movie, I swear.
But
Yeah,
it's,
I think that's kind of sums everything up perfectly. And I noticed at that time of the section where they were going for their camping trip is the perfect components of pathetic fallacy. Of obviously the son is obsessed with the walkie-talkies, and I noted that he said, "Oh, there's no rain clouds above." And you notice that as the family then spend time in this house and the time goes on, the sky starts to grow darker and more seriousness. And you can see that the forecast in the weather is also the forecast for their issues. And I think that when it kind of then culminates that, the thunderstorm starts when the family talk about what room that they would take if it was their house. And it kind of like culminates perfectly of this is now you're in the storm right now. You're in the problem. Like this is you're in the eye of the storm here, and I like the fact like how tense it was. I found myself after the scene. You could feel yourself almost unravel, and you're like, oh my god, how long have I been like holding myself like that? As they're under the table as the most awkward sex scene I think I've ever seen in my entire life, especially when she's almost like role playing as a poor person.
yeah.
Very fucking weird. But like you said, I think that scene encompasses how beautiful I think this movie is cinematically shot. And the one thing that I kind of wanted to point out, and I don't know if you noticed, is in that scene where they start to run away. Not only is every angle is them going down, so they're going back down to like their societal status, right? They're going down, and as you notice as they run down a particular part of one of these roads, the camera zooms in on the drain, almost as if everything that they've got, everything that they've earned, is now going down the drain, is being wasted. And I noticed that they only start to sort of feel like they could talk about their morality when they're closer to the level that they're normally at. So most of the time on these scenes, you see them running away from that. And closer to their level is when they then start to discuss, what's the plan? What are we going to do? And I think that that's like a beautiful kind of symmetry compared to where they are in terms of themselves. And we see a bit more of that when it comes to like the ending of the film as well.
Yeah. I just want to clarify. She was role playing as the woman in the backseat of the car.
Shouting, "You need to buy me drugs" is a little bit weird.
Well, he even wanted her to like to wear the
very
underwear.
weird.
And I'm like, this is. I mean, look. I mean, we know it just throughout history that people with a lot of money tend to have some weird kinks, and here we are.
Wow.
Speaking, going back to dark.
Speaking of
like,
kinks,
yeah. P2's my kink. What?
Whoa.
Well,
like visually, like I thought the movie was dark too. Like I was like trying to like I was like, is it just my eyes or is this movie just dark? Not like like story wise dark. I'm talking about like
visually?
lighting effect kind of dark.
I didn't notice. Like the only times when I noticed it was like really dark is when they started heading into like the sub basement. Like there's just like when they started going down the stairs, it's just complete blackness and you couldn't see anything anymore.
yeah, I feel like halfway through the movie, when things start to go wrong, that's when the movie becomes dark in the lighting sense. I feel like before that, as P2 was saying before, like it's very bright. It's almost optimistic. At times, and then as the family descends into even more parasitic natures, like he said, talking about moving into the house, that's when it like really starts to become dark, and it starts raining, and it really doesn't get light again until the resolution of the story, when
Mm.
Yeah.
everyone's kind of is like, yeah, we're fine, we're on the straight and narrow, I guess now.
We've moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah, very like interesting kind of theme throughout the entire thing, which is quite nice. But I get where you're coming from though, Greedy, because I think that they do kind of like sight the sunbeams coming through the windows quite often, almost as if like that's the only beacon of light, beacon of hope that they've had.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it because as we talked about earlier, the movie is dark, story
Yeah,
wise, and as it progresses into it, it does get dark, and then at the end, when all the fun, I guess you can say, happens, it's like daylight. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, that's quite interesting actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm going through my notes now. I kind of noticed that is obviously in that scene their home's been flooded, right? So there's obviously a lot of you know sadness for them. It's even showing that the ones that maybe we consider to have nothing in terms of our protagonists, they still have something to lose. And there's a clear look on Mr. Kim's face of being absolutely devastated that his home is gone, and saying to his children, because they keep asking, well, what's the plan? What's the plan? And almost like dystopian, he goes, you know what plan never fails? Not having one. And, you can't fail. You can't, there's nothing unexpected if you don't, you can't plan for something and be upset by it if you didn't plan in the first place. And I think that it kind of epitomizes the mindset of the lower classes in this film, of where everyone who is in that lower class is like similar to, we see the mirroring of, the drunkard at the beginning, using their home as a urinal, and that being mimicked with him doing it again later on in the film, and they try to replicate the behavior of Min, but also the fact that their home then gets flooded by sewage water. And I think that kind of shows that there's always bad situations, and with zero movement, if you see what I mean. But I said, especially after that thunderstorm, that glorious sunshine is greeting everybody, but it's only shining on the rich.
Hmm. You had mentioned Mr. Kim's faces, and I love his expressions, especially when someone's talking about his stink, and like
Yeah,
his expressions are like so subtle, but you can like clearly tell how much it bothers him,
totally. The
to the
irony
to the
of the
breaking
growing
point at the end.
stench.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought, especially in that scene there, where obviously he's been dressed up as the Indians, almost culturally offensively, to show that the only thing that only like value that connects them still is money. And when he's going, oh, you love your wife and you're trying your best and all this kind of stuff, and then Mr. Parker's going, well, you'll get paid extra for this. Like, think of it as part of your job. And it's like you're missing the point. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was kind of like a realization for Mr. Kim there, is realizing that the resentment that he's growing is just as smelly as he is to them. And I think that kind of shows perfectly, because in those kind of scenes you see that Kevin is also asking, do I fit in here? Do I belong in this setting?
Mm.
And I think all of them almost tend to get like this, almost like an epiphany of, what are we doing?
Yeah. Going back to um, his acting, like Song Kang Ho, right?
Yep.
He was the weird in The Good, the Bad, the
Yeah.
Weird. So seeing him in that performance, like the last time I've seen his performance, like it's a very very right turn, that happens
Yeah.
between that character and this one that he's playing. And in the weird, like I felt, when I felt like he did a great job in that one too. But I mean, this one just kind of knocks it out of the park. And I know he was in Snowpiercer too, but I don't remember what character he was. I think he was the father trying to get his daughter off the train, but I can't really remember what he was like. But this is like peak acting too for him, and a lot of the characters too. Like there's a lot of characters doing their absolute best here, and as I said at the beginning, like it just feels so natural. It really does. Everything that's happening just maybe it's a little bit more exaggerated, being skewered by a barbecue stick or whatever it is, but it still feels very real.
Completely agree. And like you said, like when I was doing my research on this, especially for like the actors, a lot of the times the main bio kind of highlights that this is the role that they're most notable for.
Which makes sense. I mean,
Yeah, totally.
everyone in here is just the star of the show. Like even the kid. Like I was like, wow, they actually got a kid who actually can act. And I mean, I know he was just being a kid, but still, it's like he wasn't like you see this kid in the movie, and a lot of times they stand out like a sore thumb. You think of Rumble in the Bronx that we just talked about. Greedy was madly upset about this kid, and it's like in this one you don't really even you just see him as a kid in the movie. He's acting, sure, but I mean he fits naturally just like everyone else, which is nice because a lot of times kids bring movies down, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the kid, real quick, I had a question because so when the guy in the basement was doing the colorful help, and like the kid saw it from his tent outside, and he was like writing it down. They made a point to show the notebook, like even the morning after, they like show a glimpse of that notebook, and I thought something was going to come after that, but like nothing ever did. So I was wondering,
I thought so
like,
too.
was that maybe something that they were
get
supposed to?
Yeah, I think
something
maybe
they cut out later.
Well, potentially. I would. Yeah, it might be something to sort of look into, but maybe it could have just been the setting for what we find out later on.
I mean, could be, but at the same time, it was not really needed for that. I don't think.
Almost like a loose end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just
Like-
yeah. Like
I
Pete,
figure
you said-
someone's gonna discover that notebook and see the help me message or whatever.
Yeah, or maybe it was just setting up the Morse code thing for later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really
But-
hoping that something would have come about with that section, because I think it
Yeah,
would be really fun for the kid to maybe adventure down into the basement himself and see that the ghost wasn't really a ghost. But the way that it ends there, obviously it's a bit dark, but it all works.
That's the thing, though. Like the Morse code thing, I feel like was perfectly set up without having that scene thrown in with the kid writing that down.
I
So
get
it's
you.
like I don't know. It was like not needed at all.
Yeah, like how he was like turning on the lights as Mr. Park went up the stairs to thank him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very like I think that was kind of like one of the darker parts of the movie. Really, is where you realize that everything that they've kind of taken for granted of these in quotes automatic sensors are at the heart of it still being controlled by another human being.
Which is funny because Snowpiercer also is kind of like that, where the kid is the one like not really controlling the train, but making sure the train continues running. Which is it's kind of the same theme there almost.
Yeah. And maybe that's like the main thing that Bong is trying to sort of highlight, really, is the fact that the things that we want still need a human touch. Maybe I don't know, but I kind of
or that we shouldn't take what we have for granted because there's someone lower, who's in a lower class who is physically having to make these or make sacrifices for those products to be in your hands.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of comment that I made here was that everybody in that house at that time is just blissfully ignorant and unaware of anything that's going on.
Right.
And to like even the beautiful scene of where the husband comes out blade in hand and nobody knows he's there, and he even stops for a minute because he's blinded by the sun.
Oh yeah.
And looking at that, you're like, oh my god, like nobody has a clue what's going on here. But I just found that very, very funny.
Yeah, there was a couple of scenes like that where like, where's your peripherals? You know?
Yeah, how do you not notice a man with like his face is covered in blood? Like what?
Or like when they wake up when their son's in the tent by the walkie-talkie and the
Oh.
dad's just laying there and his feet are just like in the light. If they had moved him up just an inch more, it would have been a little bit more believable.
Yeah, just the fact that Dad didn't even look around the room to see a person lying down. Like, come on, man. Yeah, that scene was very funny.
I mean, I guess the kid had just shown the light in their faces, so maybe there was like a little bit.
I think
their eyes
that's what
hadn't
he was
adjusted
going
yet.
for.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, dear me, yeah.
It doesn't take me out of the movie, but it is something that I think
Yeah.
about afterwards where I'm like, oh, he probably could have been moved up a little bit more, or maybe have the light shine a little bit less on his feet so they're not like glaring in your face
Yeah.
in those wide shots, you know?
Yeah.
Incredible. Oh, dear me.
So, shall we go ahead and talk about the climax of the movie
Sure thing.
and all the madness that happens?
Yeah, the best party ever.
Well, first of all, I want to start this off by saying how, like, I love how that rock that's given in the beginning just like
Dwayne?
almost almost become like a character part of the movie. It's like so
Yeah.
important, just keeps getting brought up, and like the kid is just so attached to it, and eventually becomes his downfall.
Like the key to his happiness, and he was gonna then obviously go to use it as a murder weapon. Also,
Yes.
the key to sort of get out of his predicament either way. I think very, very interesting to say. Like I wrote it down as it became like almost like an omen for them. But the fact that like seeing it as a character as well is brilliant because it's ever present, you know. So yeah, nice job, Carlos. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Finally, I did something right.
The rock totem to murder everyone. Well, not
But yeah, I was like the first time that the guy just threw the rock at the kid's head, like that didn't show anything. I was like, okay, yeah, they're probably gonna show the after effects, and that was it. But then that second scene where he threw it the second time, wow.
Oh, incredible!
P2's still giggling about it. It really
It's one of those.
fancy.
I think it's because it's one of those things of where like the naive part of my brain was going, oh, they're not going to show this. It's going to cut away, and it's just
I
going to
was
have
thinking the same thing.
maybe like
truly
arterial
was.
splatter or something like
yeah,
that.
just
Like
hear
you
the
know,
sound, but don't show it.
but the fact that it fully showed the hit as well, and then followed by the twitch, and I just thought, wow, that's like very savagely delivered, and so well by both characters as well. Of where the husband seems to have like zero interest or acknowledgement for what he's just done. Just like carries on as if like, you know, he's just taking the trash out, for example.
Well, he's taking revenge. You
Oh
know?
yeah, definitely.
They killed
definitely.
his wife. So.
And it's so weird how he has like this creepy smile on his face like most of the time.
Well, yeah, what I was expecting to happen is because of the blood on his face kind of makes him look like he has like that Native American paint on it. And I was
Ooh.
thinking maybe, you know, he would like attack during like the fight scene or something and kill the dad or someone, but that's not how it went, you know. But I was thinking that the whole time, like he had that blood smeared on his face. Or maybe he's just a fan of the Joker. I don't know.
I'm the Joker.
Also, what
I
is
got
that?
this blood.
Why does that blood look so fresh and red, even though like he got it in the previous night?
Good point.
Because the makeup artist applied it to him before the scene started.
Fourth wall broken.
Or he was just continuously bleeding. But
I
that's a
guess
lot of
that's-
lost blood.
Especially
Well,
for the
he
head.
was slamming his head against the Morse code
Yes, he
button.
was.
So yeah, I'm wondering if maybe he just kept reopening wounds on his face because there was like older blood that you could kind of see on the sides, and the fresher blood was in the middle. So maybe that's what they were going for, was like he was really banging his head on that thing the whole night, and then finally, you know, when the sun came down, he had his chance and took it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's or he just got to the point of where he had nothing left to live for, and
lose, yeah.
you know, and what's the point in cleaning your face?
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I think it was quite a savage last scene, to say the least. and I think that it was so well done in a lot of ways because um, it's almost like when he grabs the knife out of the block, I was like, okay, so he's clearly going for the wife here. Do you know what I mean? Because she was the one who essentially delivered the kick. She was the one that.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And I didn't see the sister being target number one, for example. Um,
yeah, he did scream out for the wife. Like after he stabbed the sister, he was like looking
very
for
true.
the wife.
Yeah. But I just think that it's incredible that even in that moment, obviously the husband has like a very severe, profound respect for Mr. Park. Even though you could almost argue it's unjustified, seems Mr. Park has no idea who this person is, or the fact he's been living, 2 floors beneath him for the last 4 years.
Right.
But the fact that when obviously the son is having that mirrored experience, isn't he? Of the cake is the birthday party, seeing the ghost. The fact that the family are more concerned with that as opposed to people quite literally being stabbed and killed, and the ultimate savagery of the husband shouting respect to Mr. Park, who needs to get his key, and so quite literally lifts him up, despite being stabbed by like a kebab skewer, just to get his keys. And he's more annoyed that the guy stinks so
Right.
badly, rather than
Right.
going, "Oh my god, I should help you." I think at the moment you can sort of you emotionally connect to Mr. Kim in a much stronger way that maybe you've become disassociated with as the movie's been going on, of where you're going, mate, you're going to get what you deserve here to an extent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the sequence of events is it's crazy when you first see it or you watch it in time in the real time.
Mm.
And on reflection, it's like, oh yeah, well, because I was wondering like, why would he stab Mr. Park? Like, I
Mm.
understand that like, but at that point his facade is still up. Like he could be fired, for trying to help, the random woman dead,
True.
bleeding out on the ground. But at that point, his facade is still kind of there, and you could tell like Mr. Park was like really annoyed with him, and it was probably going to fire him anyways or something like that.
Hmm.
Why'd he stab him? That's my question.
I think it was like the straw that broke the camel's back is almost feeling like mocked, out of place, disjointed. And I think that when even your situation, like humanity should kick in, and he's telling him to go and drive the car whilst somebody is quite literally dying on the grass, irrespective of it being his daughter. I think that's going to naturally make you look at someone differently. And I think that the overall exaggerated, hold the nose, I can't even stomach your smell, mindset comes into it. But I think that, symbolically, it shows quite literally the parasite killing the host.
Interesting. Because I was confused by it too. I was like, why did Mr. Park die? Like, all he wanted was the keys.
It did seem like very sudden, but like on the second watch through, I was like paying more attention to like this, his facial expressions every time they mentioned like how he smells and
Mm-hmm.
just like how much it bothers him like a little bit more every time. And yeah, I guess like P2 mentioned, that's the straw that broke the camel's back, and he just snapped and just reacted not rationally.
Yeah, it's pretty genius of him to hide in the basement that they didn't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
That key information that he got when he was talking to what's their face, and and also like the lady cutting the camera cord like the night before or whatever,
Of course,
like
yes.
that played into it. It's so like that. I love that kind of like payoff thing. And
Yeah.
it's not like they zoom in on the like they show the cut wire, but it's not like they zoom in on it and go look. It's a very
Pivotal
subtle like
clue.
it's a very subtle like pan over and and everything kind of like comes together. It's very nicely.
Yeah, I think it's like you said. I kind of forgot that was like a main component, and when it kind of like panned over, I was like, okay, it's like the wires, like, and even the housekeeper is saying, "Oh, don't worry, I cut it so they'll never know I'm here."
It was such a
And
throwaway line too.
yeah, 100%. And I think that it kind of there's so many of those throughout the film that you kind of don't realize the significance of it until it's too late, like the early warning signs, then so to speak. But
How long
yeah, I
is
think.
that
Go on,
Morse
sorry.
code message that he
Oh
he
my
sent out
days!
every night? I mean, that was like several pages.
Yeah, I mean, I love the commitment. I mean, but then
Yes,
if you're in a basement, I suppose you've got quite a bit of time on your hands, you know.
exactly. You got nothing better to
But
do.
but then, how frustrating would you be if you know, came and just for the last line, and you caught the last line, and that was it.
Yeah, see you. That was the last thing he
Yes,
said.
take
It's like,
care.
oh,
And it's like,
I-
okay.
he's given up, and then you never go back. Yeah, I like how they set up like, his son has a plan at the end of the movie, right? He wants to,
Oh,
go to
so
college, make money, and buy
gut-wrenching.
the house.
Yeah.
But that little scene that happens, it's too good to be true, right? He buys the house, and his dad comes
Yeah.
out, and they hug. And when it flashes back to his son, I'm like, oh, he's just dreaming about this. He wants this to happen. So whether it's going to happen or not is up in the air.
Yeah.
I guess we have to wait for Parasite 2.
But then how beautiful is that? Because, similar to what I mentioned earlier, was he said, Dad, I made a plan today.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
like, if we're following then from the advice of what his dad says, he knows that plan's not going to come true.
Oh, that's true.
Oh,
Like,
brutal. But like, I
at-
think, the everything is written so well. Like, it's so, it's so, like, connected to the way I think a lot of people feel and think, that one of the scenes that kind of stood out for me was when they were talking about the family when they were away on their camping trip, and they're talking about how naive they are as a family, and Mr. Kim says, "Oh, she's rich, but she's still nice," as if that they are like opposite things, and the wife kind of contradicts that by saying she's nice because she's rich, and if I had all of this money, I'd be nice too. And I think that like like everything that is kind of mentioned just shows that the main nucleus is that money runs everything, and that everyone could be nice if they had it. It's easy to be generous and kind when you don't need it,
Or when you have so much of it that you don't know what to do with it.
Yes, exactly right.
But yeah, when they first showed that scene where it shows the kid like buying the house and then like being in the yard and the dad walking
so
out,
brutal.
I was like, wait, so much of this scene doesn't make sense. Like, first of all, he still looks very young, so how could they have acquired so much money so quick?
What do you mean?
And
He has a
then-
different hairstyle, bro. Come on.
Yeah, he's got the end of Squid Games. I dyed my hair red, and now I'm a hero.
Yep. You can't get a new hairstyle equals older. Everyone knows this.
right, yes, of course. And then how did the dad know to come up as like that at that exact moment, like when they didn't even, make themselves known that they were there, or I don't know. Like
Yeah.
so much didn't make sense, but then I was like, they cut back to the kid. I was like, oh, he's just dreaming this whole time.
Yeah, because
That
he
makes
doesn't know what
sense.
his dad's going to look like in how many years. So
Mm.
he thinks about his dad, and he sees the dad he saw that same day when they got split apart.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, like he actually kind of even looked a little bit different too. He kind of looked more like his friend. He was wearing like
Yes.
he
of
had
course.
almost like the same hairstyle. He's wearing like a very similar outfit. So he
Hmm.
saw himself as his successful friend who was
Yeah.
venturing out and making money.
I think that like that's an interesting point, because there's a similar situation where I think it was when they were running back to their home when the torrential rains were going, and he asks, "What would Min?" I've been wondering what would Min do in this situation, and it's like why is he the barometer of your success and morality?
Yeah.
And the greatest of then like his sister going, he wouldn't even be in this situation. What the fuck are you on about?
Yep.
Yeah,
was a good line.
I think that's an interesting point there. The fact that he's wanting to emulate his own version of what he thinks success is. Yeah, but I found that kind of end scene so heartbreaking. And I don't know why, because like on the surface, you shouldn't really feel like sympathy. I think, there's a lot of kind of situations where they've clearly been very, manipulative and very evil in a lot of ways, and I think the fact that they got off very, very lightly, I'm a little bit like, I conflicted with the ending kind of montage of, I'm going to go to uni, I'm going to get money, I'm going to get the house, and we're going to be a happy family again. is kind of merged in well, of where it's like the rug is pulled from under you again. I think just very, very well done.
It's crazy that they just got probation from
That's
that whole thing.
absolutely insane when you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, technically, what did they do wrong other than forging documents
Go on.
and pretending to be who they weren't?
Pretending and harboring people and kidnap.
Do
and
they arrest children in the street for pretending to use swords?
What?
When you're sword fighting as a kid, do the police officers drive up and be like, "You're under arrest for using weapons"? No.
I mean,
Well, I mean, those kids swinging swords aren't like taking money from the rich while doing that. So.
Yeah.
No, they're getting paid. They're getting paid to do a job. What's wrong with that? It's
okay.
under false pretenses, but I mean, you can't. I mean, it's just a little white lie here or there, you know.
Mm-hmm. What lie that
Just
resulted
a
in how
white
many
lie
deaths?
here and there. Judge Yemmy residing,
Are
everyone.
the police going to show up at my mom's house because they said Santa was real?
Wow, that's
Ooh,
10 years.
let's not go there, Yemmy. Let's not go there.
But in all honesty,
Yeah.
I think the sentence is a little bit light for what they did. I mean,
just a bit.
I'm just being facetious here,
Of course.
but yeah, it's a just a couple years probation. You know, you kind of expect a little bit more, maybe some jail time. You know,
At
I mean,
least.
the one kid, he has to have some sort of brain damage too. So like his plan to go to uni, I feel like might be foiled because maybe he's not able to learn as well with how his head was hit like twice by a rock. You know.
Oh, he's fine. He just laughs at everything now. It's fine.
He just giggles at his rights being said to him. It's like bizarre because when I was kind of reading up on this, one of the main things that they said about Kevin was that he's intelligent but lacks the kind of vigor to complete examinations. Very specific in terms of his character development. But maybe like the Rock laying the smackdown has actually, benefited him, I guess.
The Rock's
maybe
lane.
his family
Nice wording.
receives, like compensation for now. Yeah, he has a disability because of his head injury. You know.
But yeah, I think that the fact that they've started and ended the movie in the exact same location is that kind of surmises the entire story realistically. Nothing's changed. They haven't developed. They haven't grown, and they're still living those kind of dreams of what they could do in the future. Making the plans that they won't do.
Probably won't do, yeah. So, I'm just going to open the door here for anyone to say anything. Does anyone have anything truly negative to say about the film?
Hmm.
I'm just opening the door. If you got anything to say.
I see the door. I don't think there's anything interesting behind it.
Yeah, same here. There's nothing that kind of particularly shone. I think, like you said, the scene where he's lying on the ground, I think stands out more than it should because the rest of the film is so well done. That would probably be my only bugbear, but that is even clutching at straws, to be honest.
Yeah, I like the way that the film is written, but there are a few like missed opportunities I feel like that are in this movie. Like the Morse code thing and the guy with paint on his face. I feel like they maybe could have done a little bit different with him, like joining in on like the
action scene at the
Cowboys
end.
versus Indians thing that they were going to go for. But other than that,
Yeah.
like I don't feel like that's enough to like make me hate this movie or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. I think maybe like it was a little bit mindful that it was already 2 hours plus. So how many more people would want to endure potentially like another 20 minutes just to tie up a very, very, very tiny loose end,
Yeah. All right, we open the door for criticism.
Mm.
So no surprises, okay, folks? We try and get it all out there. All right. Are there any other points that anyone wants to bring up before we give our rating and review? Final thoughts, I should say.
Not from me.
I think I've brought up everything I wanted to bring up. Goody.
And good.
All right. So P2, you know how it works.
Yes,
Rating out
sir.
of 5, and just a little final thoughts for us.
Okay, so final thoughts. This film is absolutely incredible from every facet, every component, every area. The writing, the casting, the cinema, everything's beautifully shot. The locations are fantastic. And I think that there's a very clear, subtle, but also direct message done throughout. I think that the music is the bow on the top of the present. There's so much symbolism that you can pick so much out of this that I'd be very surprised that this isn't on some sort of school syllabus in years to come. But I think that overall, I can't consider a film where I've watched and everything is so well done. So it's 5 stars out of 5 for me.
All right. Yeah, when I rated this movie on Letterboxd, I didn't really know what to say. Yes, yeah, it was yesterday that I did this, so it's not like I've been waiting a week thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, amazing, incredible acting, great cinematography, amazing and intricate themes throughout the entire movie. Things that I wasn't even thinking about brought up here. That also elevates the movie as well. Some missed opportunities here or there, but nothing too egregious that I would say would lessen the experience for me or and maybe anyone else. And yeah, I mean the real standout here is just the writing and the cinematography being at its best. And I love Snowpiercer, but I mean this um, was definitely better than Snowpiercer. And I gave that a 5 out of 5, so I got to give this one a 5 out of 5 as well.
Of course.
Yeah, the story is phenomenal. It was fantastic. The ending is definitely worth it. Watching it for the first time, I would love to watch it again sometime down the road. Um, as we said previously, didn't know what we're getting ourselves into. Like originally, they need to do a better job of advertising. Also, I meant to ask during the podcast. We can talk about it later. Is the black bars on everyone's eyes? In the pictures and all that. I don't understand that, but I think I kind of know. But I want your guys' opinion after we do our ratings. Um, Great. I do agree with you. I mean, some missed opportunities, but it's not enough to make it horrible movie. But I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
What? All right. Real quick, I think those black bars across their eyes is sort of like a redacted thing. I think
Mhm.
it's meant to symbolize how they're seen like in this totally normal situation, but there's like something sinister behind it.
Hmm.
Which
Mm.
totally was the case as we've seen it in the movie. That's what my
Mhm.
opinion is. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, like you guys said, this is a fantastic movie. I enjoyed watching, even though it was my second time watching. I still ended up enjoying it a lot, like getting a little bit more out of it than I did the first time, and like that climax was still as shocking as ever, and visceral. And yeah, I have absolutely no complaints about it. So yeah, I'll also give it a 5 out of 5.
Alrighty. And we did not get a rating or anything from Tay. He's currently sleeping right now, I'm pretty sure. So we'll just hear what he has to say in the next episode.
Yeah, I thought
Okay.
the black bars was either they die at the end or
I think it's more
um
like a censorship thing.
yeah.
That like in there's a lot, especially in those parts of Asia, like Japan and things like that. They're really big on censorship laws, so I think that's like a play on that of where you don't really know who that person is, for example, which kind of links in with the symbolism of the movie as well.
They're there, but they're not there.
They're there, but they're not there playing swords in the street.
That's right.
Yes.
I'm calling the police on you next time I see you out there, P2.
Dang it.
You got your little Nerf gun. I'm like, oh my god, someone arrest this maniac.
This crazy man.
Okay. So before I introduce the movie that I chose for the next episode, Callus has an announcement that he would like to make. Callus, please take it away.
Thank you, Yemmy. So, this is something that I've been considering for quite a while, and I finally made my decision on it. Good news and bad news. Bad news is that I am retiring from Film Freaks.
Get
So,
my box of tissues. Hold on.
I loved my time here, but I feel like it's time for me to move on to other things. I feel like my time, like I enjoy, being here and reviewing movies with you guys, but I feel like I have such little free time recently with like the like new position on my job and like so many other things going on in my life that I feel like it's time to retire. I had a great time with you guys, and it's time to move on. But the good news is that I'm still sticking around for a while longer, for another 5 episodes to be exact. Or is it 6? 5? Anyways.
Yeah, it'd be 5.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yummy.
So yeah, I'm doing a whole nother round of recommendations with all of the main cast, and then I'll do the final episode will be episode 100.
That's right. And of course, with Callus leaving, that leaves an opening on the podcast. So if anyone is interested in joining the Film Freaks crew, we are open to people who have flexible schedules, of course. We usually record on Sundays. Also, you got to have at least a good mic to talk with us and have the time and the resources to acquire movies and watch them in a timely manner. Those are pretty much the only prerequisitions for the job here. But Callus, we really enjoy you being on the podcast. Obviously, this isn't your last one, so we're not going to heartfelt, do the heartfelt thing. But we definitely appreciate you giving your time to be on the podcast and talk with us about movies. It's been a blast.
Yeah, it's been very nice being here with you guys.
And of course, P2,
Yes,
we
sir.
appreciate you coming on this episode of the podcast and talking with us about Parasite.
Well, thank you for having me back on. It's always a pleasure to speak with you guys, and always a good time.
That's right. And
It's a lot of
P2,
fun.
nudge, nudge. Do you happen to know another movie that we might like to watch with you?
I was having a little think of this, and I've got 2 that I would like to throw into the ring.
Choose one.
Okay, I will. Do you know what? Because I thought the Parasite was such a good one, I'm going to go a little bit of a classic from 2002.
Ooh.
A classic that is nowhere near on the standard of Parasite, in my opinion, and that is the Vin Diesel classic XXX.
Oh, God.
Wow.
All right.
Jeez.
Triple X. Okay.
You just
I will
entered the
add that to
Xander
my
zone,
list.
my friends.
Oh, the Sander song.
It's on the list.
Wow.
And if you all want P2 to come back and talk about Triple X, not the porn, we
Dang
will do
it!
that.
I might accidentally watch the wrong movie that time.
I'm gonna go on the wrong website. Be like, what is this?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I like the
Don't-
scene where he brings the pizza. What?
Yeah, the lady's watering the flowers and gets
They
stuck
can't
in
pay. What's
This is
going on?
stuck.
one weird plumber.
the one person gets stuck under the bed. I don't get it.
In the
I
dryer
really like.
too.
I really like the bass track was bam 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 bam. You know,
Yeah, the opening credits was really fast.
the plot's really short actually. You know?
There's not much going on story wise, but there was a lot going on physical wise.
Very visceral ending.
All right, that's added to the list for you, P2.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see how long it takes for that to get chosen.
Definitely a 180.
All right, it's time for me to choose a movie for the next podcast. And what we've decided to do is because, unlike when Coco left the podcast, it was very like he had to go, or she had to
Sudden.
go, and it was very sudden because the schedules changed and they weren't able to come onto the podcast on a regular basis anymore. But with Callus, we actually have a build up to it. So what we've decided to do as a celebration of Callus's time on the podcast,
Oh,
we're going to be suggesting movies that we think Callus will like. So whether he does or not, that's up to him to decide. But that's the plan for the next couple episodes here. And then Callus's final, not final, but his final recommendation. He has something special planned for us. So we'll see how that goes. But
Can
yes,
we get straight 5 out of 5s for cows with all our picks?
well,
And
we'll see.
yeah,
Will be the
instead of
challenge.
rating the movie, I'm gonna rate the pick. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna rate your choice.
You can do both. You can rate the choice and the movie in general. So, Callus, I plugged in a bunch of stuff into an algorithm to decide what
Whoa.
movie we were gonna watch next, because I was like, if I give like an AI chatbot all of Callus's information, like he's got blue hair, he likes basketball, he enjoys these actors and stuff like that. I put it all into like a big old bot, and I was like, Callus, what movie would you recommend?
Yemmy the scientist.
But there's one question that you need to answer for me right now, because that will
Whoa.
determine what movie we watch. And that is, do you like Dags?
I love Dax.
Oh, you love dogs.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to be watching Air Bud from 1997, directed by
Wow.
Charles Martin
All
Smith.
right.
Synopsis for this is: a lonely boy befriends a stray dog who has a natural talent for basketball, and together they experience the highs and lows of life as their friendship remains solid through a series of escapades. Obviously, Air Bud has turned into like this big, like
Franchise.
like cinematic universe. But we're starting at the.
Yes.
We're just going back to the beginning, 1997. I felt like Callus loves a
Wow.
feel good story. He loves dogs. He likes basketball. I saw he had pretty good tickets at the last
The
basketball
Holy
game we went
Trinity.
to. I was like, this has got to be the Callus movie.
Would
This
you have
stars,
chosen Aristocrats if I had said I didn't like dogs?
No, I would have chosen Speed.
Oh.
Mm.
But anyway, we're watching Air Bud, so get that out of your mind, Callus. This stars Kevin Zagers, Wendy McKenna, Michael Jeter, Bill Cobbs, Eric Christmas, Brendan Fletcher, and many, many more. And of course, this
Air Bud.
stars
Gotta
the
say Air Bud.
titular Air Bud, who is a golden retriever. So yeah, you can find this on Amazon, Apple TV, YouTube, Vudu, all the different places. Callus, what do you think?
I have no idea if I've seen this movie or not.
Really?
I have no idea. I
Do you
feel like
have a
I've
childhood?
seen an Airbud or two, but I don't know if it's like one of the sequels or spin-offs or if it was the original.
There's so many. There's one where he plays
So many.
football. There's one where he has puppies and they all play volleyball. And the universe is massive in the Air Bud
Yes,
universe. It's a massive.
This one he
universe.
just plays basketball, right?
Yeah, he's shooting hoops. And I mean, I guess I shouldn't say this, but the dog actually is hitting these baskets when you watch the movie. So there's no trickery. He's actually trained to shoot baskets. Isn't that great?
Nice.
Well, it's a golden
That's
retriever,
awesome.
and they're easily trainable.
P2, what do you think? I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
I think that is very interesting. I'm the same as Callus. I've not seen that movie, so the lore of Airbud sounds incredible.
It is. It's very
It's-
deep. Think of the cinematic universe as Marvel and DC have tried to build.
Air Bud
Nothing
is
compares
third.
to Air Bud. No, nothing compares to
Okay.
Air Bud. Air Bud is above all the rest.
I see. I'm so sorry, Airbud. I didn't realize you had such prowess in this the universe of ours.
That's right. You bow to him.
I will bow wow to him.
Oh,
Hey.
there you go.
So, just looking at this list right here, there are 24 movies in the Air Bud cinematic universe.
Wow.
Wait, how many?
24
Jeez.
from this list that I'm
Wow.
seeing on Letterboxd here.
Wow.
Do they all follow like
I'm-
a similar pattern of like Airbud?
Well,
Plays
yeah, it's
football.
usually a golden retriever doing something sport related, or one of them they go to space.
Of course, one of them comes to
There's like
space,
all
yeah.
these Christmas movies as well.
It's like Space Jam in reverse.
There's like a spin-off where it's a monkey too. Like I don't know if this list is actually accurate. There's a lot of movies that have different
Air
names on
Monk.
here. The ones that have like Airbud in the title. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's about
That's already
8
a
or
lot.
so. Yeah, there's a lot.
Hmm.
We're not watching the rest of them, though. We're just watching the
Yes.
first one from
Yeah, he
1997.
plays
Okay?
soccer, baseball, volleyball.
Mm.
That's right. But basketball, that's where he got his start.
Got drafted. Yeah.
And I'm sure Tay in his dreams is stirring and going, Airbud, yes. You know.
I'm pretty sure I've seen this movie, but like I totally remember like 0% of it. Nothing at all.
Well, don't give it a rating for the choice yet. Do that next
Yeah,
episode,
yeah.
okay? And if you, the listener, want to join in or not be spoiled for what happens in Airbud from 1997, please make sure you watch that before the next episode airs in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we'll reconvene and talk about Airbud. Let's go.
Alrighty.
Is there anything else that anyone wants to mention before we end the show?
Yeah, don't forget to clean your ass.
Clean it good.
Tay's not here to say it, so I had to say it. Yemmy thought it was the chance to be over, but nope.
maybe after I retire, it'll be over.
Nope.
We'll see. Well, I am Yemmy the Ferret, and I've been here with...
Oh shoot, what was Para Waffles.
Yoon Callis.
P2 the Parasite.
And this has been another episode of Film Freaks with a Z. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
P2, give us a Welsh goodbye.
Dabal chi, hwyl fawr.
Nice.